Students, welcome to my YouTube channel, Sure Short Questions with Narayan. In today's video, we will discuss about strict liability, which is also government liability in the law of torts. The contents of this video are useful for the semester exams of students who are into LLB, BA LLB, BB LLB, LLM. Also, this is important and useful for CLAT, ISLET aspirants, Judiciary, Union Public Service Commission and State PCS exams. Also, this is helpful to write your assignment on government liability. So let's discuss as a question form. The question in the exams could be like discuss in detail with leading case law, state liability, that is government liability, or this can be as a assignment form for your semester assignments. The answers, let's go from this point. What is state liability? State liability refers to the legal responsibility of the government. These are the key words you must remember. Government here is referred as the state to compensate individuals for damages caused by the wrongful acts or omissions of its officials or employees, especially when these acts result in harm or loss to individuals. It is based on the principle that the state must be accountable for harm caused by its actions. Any action done by its employees is taken as state actions, ensuring a fair remedy for individuals affected by government operations. What are the different aspects of state liability? One is vicarious liability. The government can be held vicariously liable for the actions of its employees or officials when they act within the scope of their duties. This means that if a public official causes harm while performing their official duties, the state may be held responsible. In the course, you must know what is the meaning of vicarious. Vicarious is nothing but it is an indirect liability. Vicarious literal meaning is indirect. So the liability that is indirectly connected is known as vicarious liability. Second aspect of this is sovereign and non-sovereign functions. See, the functions of the government are divided into two categories, sovereign and non-sovereign. The core functions are sovereign functions like law and order, railways. Non-core functions like transportation, they all are non-sovereign functions. Like example, State Road Transport Corporation, Delhi Transport Corporation, Uttar Pradesh State Road Transport Corporation, they are considered as non-sovereign functions. Let's take an example. If a passenger or a pedestrian is injured due to the negligence of the driver of a government operated bus, suppose pictorially you can see this person is walking on the road and this is a government bus. Suppose let us take for example UPSRTC bus. It hits him from the behind while the person is walking. That person is injured due to the negligence of the driver. Then the government can be held liable for compensation since running a transport service is not an essential or sovereign duty. The state may not be held liable for acts related to sovereign functions, but it can be held liable for non-sovereign functions. Strict liability. In some cases, particularly those involving hazardous activities, the state can be held strict liable, meaning it may be responsible for damages without any proof of negligence. This is seen in cases where the state actions pose inherent risk to the public. Example, if a government run facility like a chemical storage, this is a chemical storage and this is the symbolically a nuclear facility, or ordnance factory wherein weapons are manufactured, if they cause any harm due to leak or accident, the government would be strictly liable for compensating those affected regardless of precautions taken. Remedies and compensation. Individuals who suffer due to state actions can seek compensation through courts or special tribunals. The leading case laws in this strict liability of the government, one is Liability Behera versus State of Orissa, AR 1993 SC 1960. The facts of this case is that the petitioner Liability Behera, she files a writ petition under Article 32 of the Indian Constitution seeking compensation for the death of her son. Suman Behra. Suman Behra was taken into custody by the Odisha police in connection with a theft investigation, who had died due to injuries sustained in police custody. The next day, his body was found near the railway tracks with multiple injuries indicating custodial violence. The petitioner claimed that her son's death was caused by police brutality, and the police authorities failed to provide any convincing evidence to counter the claim. The issues before the Supreme Court was issue number 1, state liability in custodial death. Whether the state could be held liable for the custodial death of an individual and be required to provide compensation under Article 32 for the violation of fundamental duties. Second issue before the court was fundamental right to life. Whether custodial violence and the resulting death violated the deceased right to life and personal liberty under Article 21 of the Constitution. Issue number 3 before the court, whether the court should recognize a violation of fundamental rights by state agents as a tort committed by the state leading to compensation. The judgment in this case was the Supreme Court held that the state of Orissa was responsible for the death of Suman Behra and ordered the state to pay compensation to his mother Liability Behra. State liability, the points held by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruled that the state was liable for custodial deaths, reinforcing that the government could be held accountable when its agents violated a citizen's fundamental rights. Second point held by the court, right to life, Article 21. The court stated that custodial violence and custodial deaths are in violation of Article 21 of the Constitution, which guarantees the right to life and personal liberty. When state agents breach this right, the state is obliged to provide compensation. Public law remedy, the court emphasized that monetary compensation could be awarded under Article 32 as a public law remedy for the violation of fundamental rights. This compensation did not bar the possibility of further action against individual officials involved. Quantum of compensation. In this particular case, the court awarded Liability Behra a compensation of 1.5 lakhs to be paid by the state of Odisha for the wrongful death of her son. Second case involved with the strict liability of the government is Rudul Saha versus State of Bihar, AIR 1983 SC 1086. The facts of the case was Rudul Saha was unlawfully detained in the Bihar jail for over 14 years despite being acquitted of criminal charges by a court in 1968. In spite of being acquitted, he was in jail for 14 years. Although his acquittal was recorded and he was ordered to be released, he remained in prison until 1982. He filed a writ petition under Article 32 of the Indian Constitution before the Supreme Court, seeking his release and compensation for his illegal detention and the violation of his fundamental rights under Article 21. Issues before the court: right to life and liberty. Whether the prolonged illegal detention of Rudul Saha constituted a violation of the fundamental rights, particularly his right to life and personal liberty under Article 21. Issue number 2 before the court, compensation for fundamental rights violation. Whether the Supreme Court could award compensation under Article 32 for the violation of fundamental rights as compensation for wrongful detention was not explicitly provided for under Indian law. Issue number 3, state accountability. Whether the state, in this case the state of Bihar, could be held accountable for illegal detention by its agents and ordered to compensate the victim. The judgment of the Supreme Court: prolonged illegal detention violated his fundamental right to life and personal liberty. The court held that prolonged illegal detention, even after acquittal, he was detained in the prison for 14 years. It violates the fundamental right to life and personal liberty under Article 21, for which the state of Bihar was liable to compensate him. The court held that Rudul Saha's detention beyond his acquittal date constituted an egregious violation of Article 21, which guarantees the right to life and personal liberty. The state's failure to release him upon his acquittal was a grave infringement of his fundamental rights. Awarding compensation under Article 32, the Supreme Court, exercising its powers under Article 32, awarded Rudul Saha 30,000 as interim compensation and emphasized that the victim's right to compensation was inherent in the right to life and liberty. This judgment marked a significant shift in jurisprudence by recognizing that compensation could be granted directly by the Supreme Court as a public law remedy for the violation of fundamental rights. State accountability. The court highlighted that the government could not escape its liability for the actions of its officials when these actions led to wrongful deprivation of an individual's liberty. The ruling set a precedent for holding the state accountable for unlawful acts by its agents and for compensating individuals whose rights have been violated. So this is the end of this video, dear students. I hope you found it useful and exciting. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to get latest videos updated on subjects. Like it and share it. Your comment on the video and what you want me to prepare is vital. So please do comment. I wish you good luck, do well in your exams, and